At the same time as this protest, childcare providers and local officials voiced their concerns about a federal freeze on Minnesota's childcare funding during that same sit-in at Duluth City Hall today. At the start of the year, the Trump administration announced it was halting all federal funds to Minnesota childcare programs due to those allegations of fraud at some Twin Cities area centers. And some of that federal funding goes towards helping parents afford care for their kids. So today, those opposed to that freeze spoke out at City Hall. That included Kaylee Spencer, a local childcare director, who says reliable childcare is essential and not having financial help could have dire consequences for Northland families.
When funding is even threatened or paused at all, parents don't just worry about the numbers. They are thinking about whether they will be able to show up to work, whether they'll have to miss shifts, whether their employer will understand, or whether they will lose their job entirely.
Spencer adds that without parents sending their kids to childcare, that could lead to childcare centers having to close as well.